Hi, small groups. Great to be with you. Looking at Exodus 33 today. So, different morning and evening services, so that might help you. Exodus 33 that talks all about pursuing God's presence. That's what we're looking at today. And so, the beginning of Exodus 33, God starts explaining how the Israelites are a stiff-necked people. It uses that phrase twice, stiff-necked. And you're like, that doesn't sound like a compliment. And in that moment, he's saying, it's like, be careful, because of your disobedience, I might destroy you. And the context is all in Exodus 32, where Moses disappears up the mountain for a very, very long time. They're like, where has Moses gone? And so they go to Aaron and they're like, oh, Aaron, what should we do? I know, we've got a brilliant idea. Let's make a golden calf. That's a brilliant idea. And the background to this that you have to remember is that the Israelites have faithfully followed God, and they've seen miracles. They've been delivered from they've had the 10 plagues. They've come through the Red Sea. They've seen miracle after miracle after miracle. And yet it comes to this moment where Moses disappears for a bit and they forget everything that's ever happened. And so I think that this passage serves as a bit of a warning to us in terms of our spiritual temperature. And the point that I make is about guarding our heart. It's like they move from red hot in God to spiritually freezing cold, worshipping another deity in a not very long period of time. So we as Christians, it's important, and anybody that's been for a Christian for a while also knows that journey and of faith is you can see something incredible, and it's like, God, where have you gone? Where have you disappeared to? And so that's a really famous moment. And then just moving on in the passage, it goes on to say, leave this place and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I told them I was going to give you the land to your descendants, so I will. I will send an angel before you. I drive out the Canaanites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey. So God's saying, do you know what? I'm going to give you all of this. I'm going to give you military success. I'm going to give you financial prosperity, a land flowing with milk and honey. That's kind of what it implies. Like, I'm going to give you everything. But the one thing that you need to realize is that my presence is not going to go with you. You can have it all, but not my presence. Now, I think this is a theological mistake that we can also make, is to think that actually when life is going well and the blessings of God are pouring in, that actually we're close to the Lord. Those two things are not always the same time. Because in my experience, the Christian life is full of mountaintops and valleys. It's full of buffetings and blessings, these two different things. And actually, it can be the reverse. We can be going through a pretty difficult time, but actually feel the closeness of the Lord, the intimacy of the Lord. And so we can't just relate blessing and things being easy to the presence of God. In fact, God's saying really, really clearly, you can have all of this outward sign of success, but not have my presence. And so what was the Israelites' response? Well, they began to mourn. And they were like, no, God, you can't do that. Like, the one thing that we need is your presence. And so that's just a really important moment for us to realize that in our life. And how do we pursue God's presence? How do we make God's presence the central moment of our life? And I talked about in the talk just how actually we have to fight for his presence. And one of the ways that I do that is just to sit and stop, in the craziness of the world. We often think, I've got to finish my Bible reading plan. I've got to do this next thing. But actually, sometimes it's just stopping and it's sitting, or it could be walking. You don't need to be stationary, but you fight for God's presence. And when I do that at the beginning of a time with the Lord, I might not even sometimes get to the scriptures because I have to fight to still my heart, to invite the peace of God, to find the mind of Christ, all of these things, and we have to fight for it and pursue the presence. And so one of the things that the Israelites did is that they took off their ornaments. They were like, and we have to do the same in terms of pursuing his presence. What are the things that we need to drop in order to do that? And what we see is that they also kept going, they kept pursuing. And if your presence doesn't go with us, we don't want to go. And so just take that into your context, into your life. How are you pursuing the kingdom? How are you pursuing his presence? And ultimately, when we have revelation of God, what happens is he gives us the mind of Christ. And so the presence of God feels like when it's a revelation piece about God's character, about his goodness, about who he is, about something in our own lives. And that's what we're fighting for all the time. Lord, give me your mind. Let me see things the way that you do. Amen. Have fun. Bye.